Your mental health isn't just wrecked by big dramatic events. It's slowly drained by everyday habits hiding in plain sight. Stuff you call normal. Stuff that sounds productive. Stuff that makes your brain feel like it's running Windows 95 with 57 tabs open. The background music of stress you don't even notice until your brain battery flashes red. The kicker? These habits don't feel dangerous. They feel casual, harmless, like, oh, that's just me. But your nervous system doesn't care about your vibes. It's too busy silently bleeding out energy points. Habit number 1, doomscrolling, the anxiety buffet. Your thumb thinks it's on a noble quest for clarity. Just one more article, one more update, one more swipe down the digital rabbit hole. But your brain, it's drowning in an all-you-can-eat buffet of stress hors d'oeuvres, doom headlines, celebrity scandals, and algorithmic anxiety tapas. Every swipe is basically another cortisol cocktail, shaken and stirred straight into your bloodstream. The reason runs deeper than habit. Your amygdala, the brain's built-in fear alarm, lights up at each alarming headline like it's New Year's Eve in Times Square. From an evolutionary perspective, that makes sense. Thousands of years ago, your survival depended on spotting the saber-toothed tiger before it spotted you. Today, your nervous system can't tell the difference between actual predator and breaking news alert about interest rates. Here's where it gets sneakier. Your brain processes indirect threats almost the same way as direct ones. Psychologists call this vicarious trauma, and researchers at the University of California have shown that simply consuming repeated negative media, think disasters, shootings, or endless political drama, can spike acute stress responses even if you're not personally involved. One 2014 study in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that people who watched more than 6 hours of 9/11 coverage in the days after reported higher stress symptoms than some people who were physically present in New York at the time. So, when you're reading about an earthquake 3 continents away, your nervous system doesn't politely fact-check geography. It just slams the panic button. Pack the bags, we're doomed. The real kicker? That drip feed of stress rewires your baseline. Over time, anxiety stops being a situational response and starts to feel like the default atmosphere. Like living next to an airport, you stop noticing the jet engines, but your body never really relaxes. Your stress thermostat is stuck on high. And now the normal air you breathe is basically smog with a side of existential dread. And yet, you keep scrolling because your dopamine system, yes, the same one involved in slot machines, occasionally rewards you with that one useful nugget of information buried under the rubble. It's intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive schedule in psychology. In other words, doom scrolling isn't just a bad habit. It's Vegas for your amygdala, and the house always wins. Habit number 2, over-apologizing, death by 1,000 sorries. You think you're being polite. Your nervous system thinks you're guilty of existing. Every unnecessary sorry is basically a micro-apology to the universe. Tiny little confessions that chip away at your confidence. Over time, you're not just saying sorry, you're living sorry. Psychologically, this works like a feedback loop straight out of a behavioral conditioning textbook. You apologize, your brain assumes you did something wrong. Anxiety spikes. Rinse, repeat, spiral. By the 30th sorry of the day, your nervous system is running a guilt-themed rave complete with strobe lights of cortisol. Research backs this up. A 2010 study from the European Journal of Social Psychology found that over-apologizing actually reduces your perceived credibility and social status. And neuroscientists have shown that apologies trigger activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's error detection system. Translation: every time you say sorry, your brain is quietly logging it as a mistake, even if nothing went wrong. Think of it like software permissions. Every time you apologize for something harmless, breathing too loud, taking up space, sending an email, you're granting the world root access to your self-worth. Before long, your confidence is riddled with malware called self-doubt. The irony? People respect you less when you over-apologize. A Harvard Business Review article points out that excessive sorrying makes others see you as less competent and more submissive. Your words lose weight. Your presence shrinks. You're training people to see you as guilty before you've even had a chance to speak. It's death by 1,000 sorries, each one shaving off a pixel of your self-worth until you're basically a ghost in your own story. By the time you catch yourself, you've gone from bold HD confidence to a blurry low-res thumbnail version of yourself. And here's the kicker. When you cut back on unnecessary apologies, people don't think you're rude. They think you're confident, because you've stopped narrating your existence like a crime scene. Habit number 3, multitasking, the fake productivity drug. Multitasking feels like a flex, like you're some kind of corporate octopus with 8 perfectly synced arms. But in reality, You're less Ocean Predator and more Windows 95 with too many tabs open. Something's going to freeze, crash, and require a reboot. Here's the kicker. Your brain literally can't multitask the way you think it can. According to neuroscientist Earl Miller at MIT, the prefrontal cortex, the brain's so-called executive control center, can only focus on one high-level task at a time. When you multitask, you're not doing two things at once. You're forcing your brain to flip back and forth, like a DJ stuck between stations. Miller calls it task switching, and it comes with a hidden tax: time and energy. Every switch burns glucose and oxygen, your brain's fuel, like you're sprinting a marathon in dress shoes. Dress shoes because, of course, this nonsense happens at work. That's why, after a day of multitasking, you feel fried, jittery, and somehow behind on everything. Research backs it up. A 2009 Stanford study found that heavy multitaskers actually performed worse at filtering distractions, remembering information, and switching between tasks compared to people who focused on one thing. Translation: the people bragging about juggling 10 projects are usually the ones dropping balls the fastest. Think of it this way. Multitasking is like trying to binge-watch 3 Netflix shows at once. A little Stranger Things, a dash of The Crown, sprinkle in Squid Game. What happens? You're confused, exhausted, and have no idea why the Queen of England is running from demogorgons in a red jumpsuit. That's your workday when you juggle emails, Zoom calls, and Slack pings at the same time. Psychologically, it's even sneakier. Multitasking gives you the illusion of productivity. A dopamine hit every time you check a box, answer a ping, or switch tabs. But the American Psychological Association found that switching between tasks can cut productivity by up to 40%. So you're not saving time. You're building a stress factory with confetti cannons that fire guilt instead of glitter. The real productivity hack? Monotasking. The world's most boring life hack. One thing at a time, like a tortoise plodding forward. Not sexy, not flashy, but the tortoise still beats the caffeinated rabbit whose Wi-Fi keeps cutting out. So next time you brag about multitasking, just admit what you're really doing. Running laps inside your own head while holding scissors. And hey, if this breakdown is clicking for you, hit that like button so I know it's landing. And subscribe for more psychology tricks that make your brain work smarter, not harder. Habit number 4, saying yes when you mean no. People-pleasing pressure. Every fake yes is a tiny betrayal your nervous system doesn't forget. You think you're being polite, helpful, keeping the peace, but your body writes it down in red ink under a file labeled, "Evidence we don't matter." This isn't kindness. This is self-abandonment with a smiley face sticker on top. And the more you do it, the heavier it gets, like carrying invisible sandbags that nobody else sees, but your spine definitely feels. Over time, people-pleasing rewires your brain for resentment. You start noticing a pattern. You're drained, others are fine, and yet you're still the one apologizing. Long-term, burnout, flatlined energy, that creeping numbness where joy used to live. Here's the psychological kicker. Every yes that isn't real makes your future no 10 times harder to say. You train yourself to shrink, to bend, to live on autopilot approval mode, which means boundaries stop being a choice. They become survival oxygen. The paradox? People respect you more when you stop handing out fake yesies. Your no is not rejection, it's truth. And truth has gravity. Habit number 5, skipping breaks, the hustle hangover. You can't out-hustle biology. Skipping breaks is like duct taping your car's fuel gauge and bragging about having infinite energy. Spoiler, you're still going to stall out. Probably in the middle of rush hour with everyone honking at you. Your brain isn't built for 8-hour marathons of non-stop grind. It's wired for sprints, short bursts of focus, followed by small recovery periods. When you ignore that, you're basically running on fumes, pretending you're a Tesla, while your biology is still a gas engine from 1999. Micro breaks, tiny pauses where you step away, breathe, stretch, or just let your mind drift, are the mental equivalent of taking your brain through a car wash. They clear out the exhaust, reset the nervous system, and make you sharper for the next round. Without them, cortisol, your stress hormone, builds like unpaid rent. And stress always collects. You either pay it with rest now, or your body repossesses your focus later. So skipping breaks doesn't make you a hustler. It makes you a squatter in your own nervous system, living on borrowed time before burnout comes knocking. Habit number 6, constantly checking your phone. Dopamine debt. Every phantom vibration, that's a dopamine bait and switch. Your brain lights up like it's about to win the lottery, only to realize, nope, just the pants shifting. Here's the trap. Every time you check your phone, even for nothing, your brain gets a tiny chemical reward. just enough dopamine to keep you hooked, like scratching a lottery ticket where you never actually win. Over time, your brain learns stillness is unsafe. The second you're not tapping, scrolling, or refreshing, your nervous system panics. What if you're missing something? What if the world moved on without you? But that's not connection, that's conditioning. Your brain has been trained to confuse silence with danger and notifications with safety, which means your body never truly rests. Even when you're lying down, you're caffeinated on cortisol, waiting for the next digital drip of reassurance. So, yeah, your phone isn't just in your hand, it's rewired your survival system. You're not checking for updates. You're paying interest on a dopamine debt you never meant to borrow. Habit number 7, overscheduling, calendar chaos. When your calendar looks like Tetris on hard mode, you're not just busy. You're quietly telling your body the world is unsafe. Back-to-back meetings, endless calls, stacked commitments. To your nervous system, that's the equivalent of being chased through the jungle with no time to stop for water. Psychologists call this time famine, the chronic sense that there's never enough time. Research from Harvard Business School found that time famine is strongly linked to stress, lower well-being, and impaired job performance. Translation: your color-coded Google Calendar might be the prettiest burnout machine ever designed. White space in your day isn't laziness, it's armor. Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explains that our stress response was built for short bursts, like outrunning a predator, not endless Zoom calls with Karen from accounting. Without recovery windows, cortisol, your stress hormone, keeps dripping like a leaky faucet, eventually rewiring your brain toward anxiety, brain fog, and yes, emotional meltdowns in the snack aisle. And here's the catch. When you stay stuck in survival sprint long enough, you don't just burn out, you flatline. The highs of productivity disappear, replaced by a dull emotional grayness. It's like living life on airplane mode, technically functional, but cut off from joy, creativity, and connection. Your calendar may be full, but your tank is empty. And while hustle culture tells you to optimize every minute, the science says the opposite. Downtime is a feature, not a bug. Protecting your time isn't selfish, it's survival. Microhack. Try the 50-10 rule. Work for 50 minutes, then take a 10-minute break with no screens, walk, stretch, stare out the window like a bored cat. Research from the Dragam Group found people who did this were not only more productive, but less exhausted at the end of the day. Think of it as adding oxygen tanks to your calendar so you don't drown in meetings. Habit number 8, neglecting sleep, the silent saboteur. Skipping sleep doesn't make you unstoppable. It makes you unstable. Your brain without sleep runs like a company led by a drunk CEO. Chaotic decisions, zero foresight, and a whole lot of drama. Sleep isn't optional downtime. It's maintenance. Every night, your brain runs its own cleaning crew. It clears out waste proteins, resets your emotional balance, and restores the connections that make memory and focus possible. No sleep? That garbage piles up. Suddenly your amygdala, the drama queen of the brain, starts hijacking every small problem and turning it into a disaster movie. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the part that keeps you rational, calls in sick. The result? Anxiety spirals, stress overload, and a nervous system that treats an unanswered email like a bear attack. Think of sleep as a nightly reboot. Skip it, and you're basically trying to run a high-powered system on corrupted files. Habit number 9, constantly comparing yourself. The confidence leak. Comparison feels harmless. Just a quick glance at someone else's lane. A little, oh wow, she's in Greece again, nice. But psychologically, that's not a glance. It's emotional quicksand. Every swipe through highlight reels and filtered victories is your brain receiving the same notification again and again. You're behind, you're losing, you're not enough. And here's the kicker. Your nervous system doesn't treat this like casual entertainment. It treats it like survival data. Psychologists call it social comparison theory, and it's baked into our DNA. Back in cave times, keeping tabs on the tribe mattered. If Ahag had more food than you, that wasn't FOMO. It was a threat to your survival. Fast forward to now, and your amygdala is still running the same firmware. Only instead of competing for mammoth meat, it thinks your life depends on having Meghan Markle's kitchen backsplash or Teyana Taylor's abs. Research shows constant upward comparison, where you measure yourself against people above you, directly correlates with depressive symptoms and lower self-esteem. Translation: it's basically like drinking battery acid for your confidence. And the irony? The more you scroll, the more your brain doubles down on the idea that the solution is more scrolling. You're essentially on a treadmill made of Instagram stories, sprinting toward validation that never shows up. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The confidence drain is sneaky. Each comparison isn't just, ugh, her vacation looks amazing. It's a micro hit to your self-worth. Over time, your inner operating system starts running on fumes. You don't even realize you've been downgraded from MacBook Pro energy to potato battery mode. And in case you think this is just a vibe, nope. Neuroscientists have found that comparison activates the brain's reward circuitry the same way gambling does. That's why you keep checking, even though it feels terrible. You're waiting for that one moment you'll finally feel enough. But your brain is stuck in casino mode, always almost winning. The result? You don't just compare, you start living in comparison mode. And when that becomes your default, confidence isn't a solid resource anymore. It's a leaky faucet. Every scroll, every why not me, every side eye at someone's curated feed, another drip, drip, drip until you're standing in a puddle of self-doubt. Habit number 10, ignoring your feelings. The emotional inbox overflow. Stuffing feelings doesn't delete them. It only turns your brain into Gmail with 47,000 unread emails. Everyone flagged urgent, none of them actually opened. You can archive them, mute them, or pretend you'll circle back. But your nervous system is the world's worst assistant. It keeps forwarding the same message until you finally read it. Psychologists call this emotional suppression, and the research is brutal. Studies out of Harvard and the University of Texas show that avoiding emotions doesn't make them disappear. It makes them louder. It ramps up your physiological stress response, raises your blood pressure, and can even suppress your immune system. In other words, ghosting your feelings doesn't just hurt your mental health. Your body gets dragged into the group chat too. Ignore them long enough, and those drafts turn into full-on spam attacks. Panic that slides into your DMs at 2 a.m. Insomnia running a 3-night residency tour in your bedroom. Random tears hitting you in the cereal aisle like an Apple emergency alert. It's like your brain is saying, oh, you didn't want to process sadness last Tuesday? Cool, here's a panic attack during your work presentation. You're welcome. Here's the psychological kicker. Emotions aren't interruptions. They're data packets, information your system is sending about needs, values, and boundaries. According to neuroscientist Antonio Damasio, people with damage to the brain's emotion processing centers struggle to make even basic decisions, like what to eat for breakfast. No feelings, no functioning. Pop culture nails this too. Think of Inside Out. Joy tried to duct tape sadness into a corner, and the whole system started glitching. Or Tony Soprano's panic attacks, decades of stuffing fear and grief into the later folder until his body literally pulled the fire alarm. The paradox? The more you resist emotions, the more energy they consume. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes all your strength, and eventually, it's going to rocket back up and smack you in the face. The actual life hack here isn't numbing, but noticing. Labeling your emotions, literally just naming them, has been shown in UCLA studies to calm the amygdala, the brain's threat detector. That's right. Saying I feel anxious is like hitting mark as read. The email is still there, but at least your brain stops screaming about it. So, no, emotions aren't viruses you need to quarantine. They're more like system notifications. Annoying? Sure, but ignore them, and the whole OS goes down. Quick recap and reality check. 10 habits, each one so ordinary you barely notice them. And yet, every single one has the power to quietly transform your brain into a stress hotel with no checkout policy. A place where every thought is a restless guest pacing the hallway, where the lights never dim, and where peace feels permanently overbooked. The reality check is simple but uncomfortable. Most of us are living in this hotel without even realizing it. Which of these habits have been renting space in your mind? Which ones felt a little too familiar? The answer matters, because awareness is the keycard that finally gets you out. If this gave you an oh wow moment, smash that like button for the algorithm gods. And subscribe for more psychology truths that stick, figures that sketch. Ready for your next brain upgrade? Tap here and keep playing smart.